Aloha. Welcome to Light Drama Action. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And let's get to the content for today. Peace.
I want to offer a clear and firm warning. What you're about to hear contains graphic descriptions. Listener discretion is strongly advised. And remember, all individuals mentioned in this video, including Mr. Combs, are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Day 23, recap of Sean Diddy Combs trial. The morning's hush was shattered by flashbulbs and murmurs as Kanye West appeared outside the Brooklyn courthouse in a crisp, all-white outfit. Reporters strained to capture every moment as he crossed the step. With the focus back in the court, the prosecution called Jonathan Perez, a former aide who had served Combs from 2021 until last autumn. From the moment he took the stand, Perez spoke in calm, neutral tones about a hidden world behind Combs' glittering persona. He described the elaborate setup for what insiders jokingly called King Nights, lavish bedroom parties for Combs and companions. According to Perez, each of these events was a full production operation. Hotel suites turned into private clubs with red mood light, stocked supplies of condoms and lubricant, and even special Vital honey pills, later identified by the FDA as containing erectile-enhancing drugs, to ensure Combs' vigor. Given only a couple of hours' notice, Perez and his team would sweep in with Target bags and Amazon packages, rushing to lay out music, liquor, snacks, and the cocktail of oils and towels that would transform the room into a sensual den. He recounted how, after the night's chaos, the staff would arrange a good meal, a massage, and even an IV drip for the exhausted women to help put them to sleep. The effect was eerie. Beneath the humor of their code names, freak-offs, hotel nights like King Nights, the reality was a business-like routine where even intimate acts were managed like corporate events. Perez's testimony took on more intense hues when he identified Jane, a former girlfriend who had been testifying as Jane in pseudonym, as one of those guests at the parties. He explained that neither she nor the other women were strangers but friends or companions of Combs, who had been paid and provided for, their roles framed casually. But the jurors could sense the tension between such detachment and Jane's own emotional account. Among the most striking details Perez provided was the backstage logistics. He confessed that during these nights he procured drugs for Combs on several occasions: Xanax, cocaine, MDMA, Molly, arranging them through couriers nicknamed Baby Girl and Guido, with cash drawn from Combs' Gucci pouch or company credit card. At one point, Perez texted a colleague for $700 for Guido, and later he bragged in an assistant group chat about finding extra cocaine stashed in a Balenciaga pouch, reminding everyone to guard the Gucci bag carefully. Each admission had weight. It painted a picture of a man whose sex parties were as dependent on trafficking-grade supplies as on music and money. The tension in the court spiked when Perez recounted the discovery of a film scene none of them could unsee. The jurors heard that a Combs videographer was tasked with copying party footage when he suddenly turned pale and then screamed in the defendant's private home theater. The proffered video showed Combs' one-time girlfriend, Jane, performing explicit sex acts with another man in 2023. The jurors exchanged glances at that admission. Jane, who had sobbed her testimony earlier, had described that night in chilling detail. Now, to hear Perez confirm that raw evidence existed on company equipment lent grim reality to her claims. Combs himself sat forward, jaw clenched, as details of the tape were recounted. One could almost hear the shift in power from the courtroom's hush to the crackling outrage that Jane's voice once held. During the ensuing cross-examination, defense attorney Brian Steele attacked Perez's credibility by portraying him as merely a dutiful employee. Perez admitted he had never seen Combs strike or physically abuse anyone, nor had he overheard Jane ever confront Combs angrily about his other girlfriends. Honestly, she wasn't that pressed about Gina, Perez told the jury, echoing Cassie Ventura's longtime stylist and defending Cassie's jealousy toward another ex named Gina. He also minimized the parties themselves. Setting up and tearing down hotel rooms were personal favors he did out of courtesy, he said. not tasks he was paid for, and certainly only a sliver of his official job. "They're literally 1% of what I did," Perez claimed of the freak-offs. One of the prosecution's coup de grace came when they produced a text from the night of a violent fight Jane had testified about. On the stand, Perez admitted he had been sent by Combs to Jane's house with an envelope for her. "Need $3,500 cash ASAP for his guest," it read. "I'm going to take it to her." The jury remembered Jane's trembling description of that night, how after Combs reportedly threw her against a door, he summoned an adult film actor to continue the so-called freak-off. Perez's message matched every detail of that story, effectively bolstering Jane's testimony. The contradiction lay in framing. Perez described delivering money and drugs as if aiding a friend, whereas Jane described it as payment for a degrading ordeal. Yet in the hushed pause after the prosecution played the text for the jury, the climate was clearer. An envelope of cash in hand, Jane's ordeal was now being charted in the defendant's own documents and the testimony of his assistant. Into the afternoon, attention shifted from the inner life of the parties to the very tangible spoils of law enforcement. Homeland Security Special Agent Andre Lemon took the stand carrying a tablet that displayed photographs of Combs's Los Angeles estate after the March 2024 raid. His deliberate, unflinching voice picked out details that the jurors had yet to hear. 6 firearms were pulled up on screen, each with an explanatory caption: 2 Smith & Wesson, a Mossberg pump-action shotgun, a Ruger semi-automatic, and a Glock pistol. A 1 rifle serial number was scraped away, an unmistakable flag of intent. Lemon noted 1 rifle sports a drum magazine crammed with 59 green-tip rounds, specialty bullets manufactured to penetrate body armor. The images made a stark tableau behind him, underscoring the prosecution's theory. Combs wasn't just prepping for parties, he was arming himself for battle. Defense lawyers questioned the search thoroughness, asking whether the agents had missed a vault of guns, but Lemon confirmed all the rifles were recovered from a locked security room behind a safe. The judge allowed the photos to help tell the story, a trader's cache that belonged in a war zone rather than a musician's home. And then came the strangest pill to swallow. Not drugs or money or steel, but baby oil. Lemon methodically scrolled through more photos. A cooler filled with bottles of baby oil appeared, also overflowing with lube. On the screen, 18 boxes of the glistening Astroglide brand, their bold lettering enough to make a juror choke. Approximately 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of lubricant, Lemon told the court. Baby oil and lube were, in his career, unique to this investigation. The implication hovered in the air like a terrible perfume. This was the detritus of sex acts on an industrial scale captured in spreadsheets and pallet shipments. It fit the narrative the government had painted and threatened to drown any notion that Combs' conduct was simply lavish play. The jury had learned earlier that one of Combs' iPads contained explicit footage of Jane with another man. Now they understood that at least 3 phones could hold further evidence. When all was laid bare, the prosecution framed it plainly: a cache of weapons, a warehouse of lube, and a handful of cell phones as collateral damage. Each item implicitly charged Combs with control and danger. A handgun says violence, lubricant says a world of sex. The juxtaposition was damning even without words. Late in the day, smaller sparks flew. Prosecutor Maureen Comey, restless on her feet, reminded the judge that Combs had been subtly cocking his head in approval during testimony. Nodding, especially emphatically, is not appropriate, she complained sharply, recalling how the judge had scolded Combs the prior week for looking at jurors while witnesses spoke. The judge, almost weary with routine, cut her off. He would not ban nods entirely. It's impossible to police every reaction, he sighed. Still, the moment added a note of cat and mouse tension. Every twitch of Combs' face was being watched. Every handshake weighed. Elsewhere, an undercurrent of jury drama bubbled up. Questions lingered over juror number 6, who had given inconsistent answers on a juror form. The defense asked if that juror should be dismissed. The government had raised eyebrows over his non-disclosure of a change of address. Ms. Comey from the bench revealed that Combs was even willing to waive any appellate claim on the matter. Combs himself confirmed waiving and gave a small wave as if the very weight of such procedural wrangling was not worth fighting once a verdict was made. Judge Subramanian then addressed the suggestion that the questioning of juror number 6 was racially motivated. He found no hint of bias. "There's nothing here to suggest any biased reason of any kind," the judge declared, calling it merely a facial inconsistency that required clarification. The issue was set aside, one more knot untied in the legal tapestry of the day. At day's end, the mood in the courtroom was taut and shadowed, even though the sun still glowed outside. Khan's posturing had been replaced by Yang's somber tally of evidence, and through it all, Sean Combs remained nearly silent, a regal figure on edge. Every witness had peeled back a layer. His unexpected appearance had framed the moment in celebrity mythology. The jurors had seen bullets and bottles, text messages and videotapes, notes of money and fear. In these final minutes, as jurors retreated to deliberate, one truth emerged. This was not just a trial of actions, but a trial of power, psychology, and perception. Each side had shifted subtly in the dance, the evidence and the emotional stakes equally on display, and the outcome would turn on who controlled the narrative in that charged silence.